Hi everyone. About 2 weeks ago, I published a video here on how to make keto strawberry jam. Uh, and in case you missed it, I'll put a link down below. Subsequently, I actually did offer to make a video on how to can this jam at home. And since some of you shown some interest, we're going to do just that today. Now, even though I've canned tens of thousands of jars during my Mango-licious days where I make and sell mango jam for 5 years actually, I found that canning was still the most challenging. After a few years of canning, I was still learning through trial and errors. And as my products grew, there were even more pressure in getting the canning done correctly because every product has different level of acids. Yes, I did face problems where certain canned jars fail after selling to customers. I still remember receiving calls from my stockists, and she will be informing me that there's a customer complaint on some failed jars. And oh my God, I was literally running to the customer with replacement jars and even more as gifts, because I got to make the customers happy. Fortunately, there were not many cases like that, and I was lucky that customers concerned were very nice and understanding, and even became regular customers after that. But if you're doing canning the jams just for your own consumption, there is actually no pressure. I had the pressure because I was selling them, so I had to make sure that they are good. Uh, for you, if you're just doing it at home for your own consumption, it just takes practice and a little trial and error before you get the hang of it. There are two types of canning. That is hot water bath and pressure canning. Now, hot water bath canning is suitable for high acid foods such as fruit jams, jellies, or even pickles. But not all fruits contain high acid. For example, like my mango jam, the acid is not high enough, so I actually ended up doing pressure canning on it. In fact, most of my products I ended up doing pressure canning, except for strawberry jam, mango chutney, and mango chili jam, because the acid level is higher due to the ingredients. And because of that, I could still do water bath canning for these few products. Now, we can also add acids such as lemon juice, vinegar, unflavored vitamin C, ascorbic acid, or citric acid powders if you can get that conveniently. This helps to increase the acidity level so that hot water bath canning can be applied. But you have to consider that whether this will alter the taste of the jams. Now, the good thing is that the added acids also make the color more vibrant and prevents browning at the top of the jam. Now, for low acid foods such as meat, poultry, seafood, and vegetables, we must use pressure canners because they require much higher heat during canning, and pressure canners actually can go very high on the heat. Now, frankly, I have either sold or given away all my canning equipment and tools. So today I will show you how to do a simple hot water bath canning for my keto strawberry jam, using mostly just things from the home. But if you have proper canning tools or kit, that would be great. Now, the next question would be, how does canning preserve the food? Now, basically, canning destroys the enzymes and prevent the growth of bacteria, yeast, and molds, and help to form a high vacuum in the jars. So if the jar has a good vacuum with tight seal, it will keep the liquid in and prevent the air and microorganisms from getting in. Now, the next question is, how long can we store the jams after canning? I would say up to 12 months for the best quality and flavor. But you can actually go up to 18 months, but the quality and flavor may be reduced because the longer food is kept, the more flavor will be lost, but they are still edible. And you have to store all these canned jars at the cool and dry area. First thing, get your jam ready. Now you can cook it at a reduced time because it will cook further during the canning process. Now use a stock pot that is high enough, about 4 to 6 inches higher than the jars, so that the water will not splash out during the canning process. You can use any wire or metal rack for the jars to sit on. Now get your jars ready, wash and clean them, and also check for any cracks. It's important to use caps with safety button. These are suitable for canning. Just wash and clean them and just air dry them. In some countries you will use lids and rings like this. You need a funnel to fill the jam into the jars, a jar lifter, a tongue, a ladle, a plastic spoon to stir the jam, and a clean cloth to clean the rims of the jars, a tray and a towel to rest the jars after canning. Place the empty jars into the stock pot. Then just add water to cover the jars about 2 to 3 inches higher. Then cover the pot and just bring it to a medium boil. You don't have to really bring it to a rolling boil, just let it simmer. The idea is just to make the jars warm or hot before you fill in the jams, so that the jars will not crack. Now once the jars are ready, just remove them, drain them a bit and put them on the tray with the towel. And meanwhile, of course, your jam should be ready. Now we can fill the jams into the jars. Leave a headspace of about ½ inch, or basically just up to the neck of the jar. Repeat until all the jars have been filled up. Use the plastic spoon to stir the jam to remove any air pockets. Wipe the rim of the jars clean. Now close the jar with the cap, just finger tight, no force, because it's going to expand during the canning process. Now transfer the filled jars back into the same pot and water. I'm doing 12 jars, so I divide by half. I have 6 jars at one time. So when I finish canning this first batch, I'll just repeat with the second batch. Now cover the pot and bring the water to a boil with high heat. Now once the water has reached boiling point, process it for 15 minutes. This is how the situation will look like with the high heat. Lots of smoke because it's really hot. You may hear the jars hitting each other, which is fine. After 15 minutes, turn off the heat. Remove the cover and let the jars rest in the pot for 5 minutes. Then use a jar lifter to remove the jars onto the tray with the towel. Now, after a few minutes, you will start to hear a pop sound when the center of the cap gets sucked down. Now when the jar is properly sealed, you hear a high-pitched sound, and when you open the jar there will be a loud pop sound. Now if a jar is not successfully sealed, the center of the safety button will spring back and forth. In this case, you can refrigerate or reprocess within 24 hours. I've also experienced that certain jars that have successfully been canned, the seals are still intact. Okay, when customers open the jar, there's something black appearing between the rim and the side of the cap. Okay. And they panic. All right, now this is actually just the jam getting stuck at the side, okay, between the rim and the cap during the vigorous boiling of the jars during the canning process. Okay, so the jam will be jumping up and down and some get stuck there, and so it is just the reaction of the jam and the metal from the cap. Okay, totally harmless. You can just wipe off the affected area and they are still edible. Now sometimes a successfully sealed jar may pop up even after a few days or weeks. Now it happens even to commercially canned jams. When I was actively doing canning for Mango-licious products, I was very observant of jams at the supermarket shelves. Okay, I would observe what kind of caps they use, how do they label the jars, and whether all the seals are still intact. Because of this, I happen to notice that some of the seals for certain jam jars has actually popped back up. Now if you don't know about canning, you will not observe that. Okay, now that's when I realized that things can go wrong even for commercially canned jars, which actually goes through an automated canning process. Now this can be caused by rough handling of the jars, because if they fall and knocked on its side, the seal may pop back up. Okay, so you have to be careful not to make your jars fall, because especially if it hits the side of the cap, then the seal may pop back up. All right, now this can also mean that not all the enzymes are destroyed in certain jars, so it starts to ferment. Basically like the bacteria is enjoying eating the jam, and eventually the gas built up inside will push the seal back up. All right, and it will start to leak and it will smell rotten. So that's not a very pleasant smell. Okay, now so when this happens, the jam should be discarded because it's not safe to eat. So a good practice would be to check on the canned jars every now and then to ensure that the seals are still intact. If there are any rotten smell, you will know that the seal for certain jars have failed, so you will want to quickly discard it. Now going back to what I mentioned about the jar falling down and knocking on the side of the cap, usually if the pressure is quite great, there might even be a dent. Now that may cause the seal to pop back up, but if you witness that immediately, the jam can still be consumed, or you can just refrigerate and consume within a few weeks. But if you did not notice when it happened, so the best thing to do is just to discard the jam. So that's it, my friends, for today. I hope you learned something new. I hope you don't feel intimidated by the canning process. It's not as hard as you think. If you can do this properly, you have a year's supply of jam without worrying. You can give it to your friends as gifts. There's so many things you can do with it. I get a bit more excited with this video because it's bringing back memories of my canning days. And guess what? I found my old Mango-licious stickers for my strawberry jam. It looks so cute, isn't it? So pretty. Now don't forget to label your jars and especially put the production date so you can have a record of it, right? Thanks for watching. Bye.